I'm so
Hi.
excited. Hey, Moya.
What's
How
up?
are
What's up?
you?
I'm good.
Listen, we are glad you are joining us. We decided to take this chat public because we
Mm-hmm.
have been talking every season now for Ready to Love. And we want to talk a bit about it and talk about how we can bring it into our perspective, our culture, what we can learn from
Mm-hmm.
it, what happened, what we thought about what happened, who we like, who we don't like, all them stuff. Right, Moya?
Yes. Now,
Yes.
how long have you been watching Indira? I've been
I've
watching
been
from season
watching
one.
from season one, from the
From
very
season
first,
one.
yes, in
And so
Atlanta.
I'm now what I'm noticing, I don't know if you've noticed this, is that they are trying to say they've merged seasons 1 and 2. So it's
Yeah, which
making it
is very
confusing. So
strange
they're
to me.
calling this season 5. And I'm like, nah, I'm not calling this season 5. It's season 6. Because we've been saying 1, 2, 3,
Right.
4, 5 this
I
whole
call it
time.
season 6, but I thought it was because season 3 was at the resort that they weren't counting that because they said season 3, Ready to Love Last Resort or something like that.
Right, right.
Okay.
No, that counts because it
Okay.
was the show.
Right.
I've heard different reasons for it, but none of it makes sense because we at that point in time we said season 1. And so what I do say right now sometimes is Atlanta cycle 1 and Atlanta cycle 2, and your sound went out. Your sound is out.
Okay.
Texas cycle 1 and Texas cycle 2. But if I'm saying like now, like we're in season 6, this is this, or we can say Ready to Love. Is it Potomac? Where did they say this was?
Potomac. Potomac.
Potomac.
Yeah.
Potomac, right? Potomac.
Potomac.
So Ready to Love Potomac. I guess that's the best thing to say. Ready to Love Potomac. Just
Yeah.
identified by which state they're in,
Which
which
city is nearest? Because Potomac is in
right.
Maryland. But you know,
It's yeah.
I think what happened too is when they talked about DC, persons probably thought it was DC proper. But usually when they
Mm-hmm.
talk about Washington, DC, it's DC, Maryland, and Virginia, the DMV. That's what
Virginia,
they call it.
right? The DMV
So
area.
I think this time
And
they
then
said,
that's
"You know
another,
what?"
and then that's a whole other conversation.
Right. They were like, let's call it Potomac and keep it at
Mm-hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So watching this season,
Mhm.
I after last season and what was
Hot
going on
mess.
with last season DMV,
Hot mess.
this this a hot mess is correct. This season for me, because I honestly was like, I don't know if I feel like watching another season, but this season actually the beginning, the first episode actually has me a little bit excited. How do you feel about it?
I feel it too because I feel like these are more mature. I don't know, they just come across more mature than last season.
Mm-hmm.
They seem like they're more
Mm-hmm.
settled. Some of them are a bit older. They have a very calm temperament. I didn't see anybody getting, wild and crazy or anything like that. And then too, we didn't have the casting special, which sometimes can affect our prejudice or preconceived notions about people. Because
Okay. Okay.
with the casting special, usually all the personality come out. So while we're watching, we
I
already know who we like, who we don't like. So I don't know if that
mm,
impacted it as well.
I've never paid attention to the casting special. I usually wait until I like maybe 3 episodes in when they start, I start getting familiar with them, and then I'd go back and watch it.
Yeah.
I've never really paid attention to them because I'm like I don't want to I that casting special, that just I don't know. I think it's unnecessary
Yeah,
as
it
far
is
as
necessary. And watching it in the past, I can say that now that it probably doesn't work because all the casting specials they have, by the time they get into the dating, you don't really remember the
Mhm.
casting
Who
special.
they are. And
Yeah.
then and like I said, then you go back. So I think the casting special is good to have like on the website, or like to put on YouTube after the fact, like
Right.
meet so and so or whatever. Like that's like a little extra thing that you do. But
Yeah.
going into it, let's get into it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know the names. I cannot remember the names yet. I remember the only name I remember is that one, and I guess he made a big deal out of it because Paul, whatever he calls himself,
Theo.
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 I call
Paul.
I call him Corey at 50. Okay, he reminds me of an older version of Corey from the DMV season, or
Yes.
the DC season. He reminds me of like if Corey turns 50, he's matured
Right.
a little bit, but he's still, because he has that little tag thing that Corey had, where Corey's tag was really silly with the 666, like six this six. I'm like, dude, is that really what you want to run with?
Right.
This dude is like, I'm PO because I deliver, and I'm like, oh my God, Lord,
Yeah, I
he's
did
so
know that he has
cheesy.
to really be careful with his words, with how he uses his words, because they don't always, I think in his mind, they probably sound one way, and when they come out of his mouth, they sound completely different.
Do you recall how old he was? Because he just seems like
I do have that.
he
He's
looks like he's
48.
old. Okay, he looks close to 50 or around 50.
48.
And so I was like, he at that age, is it
Mhm.
gonna change? I don't think it's gonna change. Like, at that
Mhm.
age, you kind of set in your ways and
Right.
you're like, okay, this is what I've done, this is what worked for me. And
Right.
that's how I'm gonna, he just seems like someone who's not gonna be
But
changed. And if
isn't it a part of the show that because you've been doing things a certain way that you come on the show and try to do things differently? Or is it
that's
just
not about
you,
the show.
you just bring your personality to the show?
They've never been challenged to do things differently.
Okay. Okay.
I think you're thinking more. That seems to be the premise of Married at First Sight, where you're
Right.
getting with someone, and it's someone you wouldn't choose, may not choose, so you do things differently. With this show, no, I think it's just, honestly, I think people are cast for entertainment value,
Mm-hmm.
and and look a look, because
Yes.
there's always been this complaint of them not having a lot of
Full
a
figure.
significant amount of full-figured women. Now, a lot of the women have an issue with it not being a lot of full-figured women, but there's never been really a full-figured man. I think the man this season, I guess he would count, the chunky teddy bear guy.
Yeah.
What's his name?
Is that's not Fernando?
No, not Fernando. The jolly guy. He's the one that was with
Clifton.
Clifton.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was with
Yeah.
the young lady with the braids and whatever
Yeah.
not. And he's
With
very
in
jolly and
orange shirt,
jovial.
right?
He was dressed down, and I was like, you know what? It makes sense to dress down, because when he came and I was like, he really ain't trying. Like, his other guys are in suits and he's in t-shirt and pants, and I'm like, you're rational because you're going to be out in the sun, and that's a whole other conversation, because they always have them in these mixers
Mm-hmm.
out in the heat, and the women
All
have to be
day.
dressed down,
All day.
standing up there for hours in grass and mosquitoes in heels, because the women are going to want to dress up, and
Yes.
then they got to be in makeup and hair, and the hair is falling and the
Right.
makeup is greasy, and so then now you're watching it and thinking, oh, why do they look so greasy?
Right.
Because they're in the heat all day. But technically, he probably became comfortable for the environment that they were in.
Yeah, he did,
Even
but
though I like it.
I still didn't like it.
You didn't like it? I didn't. At first, I was like, well, where he going? And then I was like, you know what? If I was you, I would probably would have do the same thing. Like, I was in, like, yeah, because this is too hot for this kind of nonsense. But he, I like a nice suit on a guy,
Yeah.
but I do think they do them a disservice of having
Yeah.
them in that heat
Well, what about what
with all
Tori
the
did? Tori's the guy with the locks. I think he had on a
Mhm.
vest. He had on
You
a
know,
long
the best.
sleeve shirt and he had on a vest. He didn't go the jacket route.
He didn't have no. It wasn't necessarily the Jordan wear jacket. That's still dressed up. He's still kind of the long sleeve shirt. It's still kind of hot. He looked nice, by the way. That's my Tori is my. That's the one I'm watching. Like, Tori, don't mess it up. Tori, don't mess it up. Like, Tori is the one
The one to watch.
that caught my eye, even though they didn't introduce him.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like locks, so I usually notice if there's a guy with locks.
Okay. Okay.
I know a lot of women like beards and bald head, and they had a lot of those last season, and they seem to have a fair amount of them this season. I don't know who told them. I don't know who told them that is what, like, the standard for, but the bald head and the beard is not something that I'm a
I don't
huge.
like the beard. I don't like the
Mm,
beard. Just from a
yeah.
like hygiene perspective, I don't like the beard. I don't.
Yeah, I'm similar. I'm similar, but a lot of women do. I think a lot, for a lot of men, it's their weave.
Yes,
The
right.
beard is their
Yes,
weave.
that's their version. Yes, yes.
That's how they cover up, because if some of them without the beard, it's like, oh,
Yes.
okay,
They
but
wouldn't look as distinguished and debonair.
as
They
they
didn't
as they
have.
as they work, right? So who do you think this season, based on who we have so far, because it seems like they're going to add people later on down. Who
Mhm.
do you think will make it to the end? Let's say that. I was going to say, who do you think will couple up? But let me say,
No,
who do you
I
think has the
think
potential to make it to the end based on just the first episode?
for the women, I would say I'm thinking Sabrina.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the
Whoa.
one in the green dress. Only
That's
because,
the one that everybody liked, right?
yeah, only yes, and only because they showed a preview of her like on a date with someone else further down, but she was very, very angry. So I
That's
feel
what I
like
was saying.
she's gonna be in it for a while because they want us to follow her story.
I think she's going to be in it a while, but when women have those outbursts on the show, that's usually indicative of you're about to get voted off.
Yeah, or it could be the guy really did something and she was upset. Like, we don't know.
Who has had that kind of outburst that's lasted till the end? Nobody. Think
Yeah,
about it.
yeah,
Which one? Because guys typically don't like that kind of, even if it's valid,
yes.
they don't like that kind of thing.
Agreed.
So
Agreed.
usually when women have those kinds of outbursts, I can't think of any woman that has had that kind of outburst that
Right.
has lasted until the end of the
Yeah,
season.
that's
Like
true.
even in the season one, when Shay left, Shay didn't really carry on. Okay,
Right.
she just remember Shay with Mike and
Yes.
Shatava, and I think that triangle with Shatavia, I can't remember her name. And Shay just was like, "Oh, what's what we gonna do? We going?" And she didn't really carry on, at least not in the front of everybody. She
Right.
talked to him by the car. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Most times when you see women are carrying on like that, and like I say, it could be valid,
Hmm.
but men are not typically
Yeah,
gonna keep them
receptive to
around.
that. Yeah.
And
Which
it
is
also
why,
seemed to go against her laid back persona. To me, I thought she was very laid back in the thing.
right.
So, like you said, probably it may be a valid reason, but it reminded me of Tiffany as well from season one.
Okay. Hmm.
You remember Tiffany, who
Tiffany
was
and
interested in
Alex,
Alex?
I think. Yes.
It reminded me of her. Like she was very chill for the most part, but once her feelings got into it, she came out
Yeah.
of herself.
Yeah.
She
That
was
was the
like
problem.
like having outbursts and stuff like that. And it was like I feel like every season we have that issue where women come out of themselves for the guys in the show, whereas the guys are always pretty laid back every season.
Again,
Every season.
I think that's indicative of the way we date, the way women date versus the way men date. Right? Because men
Hmm.
are usually just sort of chill and they're going along, unless it's someone they're really into. But I feel like
Hmm.
sometimes women be get so involved, so quickly. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. Everybody has a thing, but I feel like I'm not going to claim you if you're not going to claim me. Even if we're dating, I'm not claiming you if you're not claiming
Exactly.
me. But I feel like
Exactly.
sometimes women want to go and claim when the man hasn't said,
And they want to be number one. And who's your number one?
who's
I
your number
hate to
one?
hear
Who's
that.
your
I'm like,
top?
I think I think I think Sydney from last season and Aisha as well from this past season, I think they did a good job of just dating around and then finding the person that worked for them. Like Sydney was like, I'm interested in Frank, I'm interested in Phil, and so I they both were interested in her as well. And then she kind of waited until the end. Like she really wasn't. It didn't seem like she was jealous of any of the other women. I
There's
mean,
a
she may have
word
been,
for
but
that, or there's a term for that.
what is that? What
It's
is the
something
term?
about being in your femininity.
All right.
Something,
Oh,
yeah,
that's what it is.
yeah,
Is
something
that
like
what
that.
it
Where you're just, you just enjoy people and you let the men come to you, type of thing.
is? Hmm.
I think that,
Okay.
yeah,
I don't know if that's being in your femininity or just being understanding. Because again, I'm gonna go back to Atlanta Cycle 2,
mhm.
Alex or Alexis.
Alex,
She was the one in the beginning that all the
yeah,
men were interested in. She
yeah.
had most of the men. She was playing it chill too. She
Until
was
her
dating
feelings got involved.
until her feelings got involved. But I'm like, why are your feelings getting involved for these people you know for like 4 weeks? I don't feel like you've been with them long enough for you to have these
Right.
out, like she was about to fight, like she wanted to fight, like she came as if she wanted to fight.
Oh, yeah, I'm
Um,
ready. Give me it. I
um, she,
want it. I want it. That was
Yeah, she wanted all the smoke. And I was like, at that point, because I was like really riding for that before that, I was like, she playing it good. She playing it the
Mhm,
right way. But when she
mhm.
came at what is
Divine,
who?
divine with London, right?
Divine. I just remember her Instagram name, Brown Eyes. But yes, when she came at Divine, and that meant Divine handled that very well.
Mhm.
When she came at her, I was like, oh, you just lost. Like you lost the whole game at this point by
Yes.
playing into that kind of thing. So I feel like every season I feel like the seasons that women just need to play the game. And but you're right, it's like women date and they're like they want to be claimed. And then the men are literally friends. Like they cool. Not this season, it looks like there's gonna be some
Yes.
little tension there with
Yes.
Demetrius and the other guy. That is the other. I use like the other second person, the other bald headed dude. I don't know their
Demetrius and
names. I
Laverne,
apologize.
Laverne.
Laverne, yes, Laverne and Demetrius. I was shocked too at the women's, all of the women being drawn to Demetrius. It was a shock to
Demetrius
me.
or Laverne?
No, Demetrius.
Okay, the
Demetrius was
dark,
the
the
former
ch-
military young
yes,
man
yes,
who
with the
had on the
beard.
suit
Yes.
with the
Okay.
beard.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay. That's why I say I was like, oh, okay. Because that wasn't like he didn't strike me as being that guy, but
Yeah.
women were like, it almost reminded me of Aaron. Not that he wasn't as gimmicky as Aaron from season one,
Hmm.
but remember in season one how
Yes.
all of the women were
With
freaking out
Vaughn.
over
Mhm.
Aaron, and I was
I
like,
think that's a probably a confidence thing or a swag thing or the way he carries himself. It has to be something that the women are drawn to.
I've seen, yeah. Even the swag didn't stand out to me though. Like he seemed very together and he seemed very calm and that kind of thing, but he didn't strike me as particularly swaggy.
Mhm.
Like not that he wasn't confident, he just didn't strike me as he just seemed like
Right.
normal kind of I'm playing this along.
I
Now the
agree.
young man who Lord, he got voted off. Bless his heart,
Yes,
Fernando.
I think that's Fernando. Yeah.
That is Fernando. That's why I said it wasn't Fernando who you were talking about before, because
Yeah.
Fernando was the one that got
Yeah.
voted off. How did you feel about Fernando?
I saw Fernando's insecurity through the screen.
I said the same thing.
I saw his lack of
I said the
confidence
same thing.
through the screen.
Yeah, he was sweating.
He was
Not, and it wasn't
nervous.
like it was hot sweat. It was more
Yeah.
like, what am I, oh my God, I'm like, like he was overwhelmed by the amount of women there and he had to figure out how. And then when he said, or when they played him saying, because I have some background in reality TV as well, where
Okay.
I produced the show here, so I can kind of know why they played that clip there where he says his girlfriend cheated on him or whatever, or she was
Mhm.
disrespectful to him.
Right.
And it's because of, I can tell, like he's probably he not as confident,
Hmm.
and sadly it would seem like possibly the guy that those guys who be like online complaining about how good guys get overlooked because
Yes.
women looking for swag or whatever
Yes.
the case may be.
Yes.
Listen,
Yeah.
men get to look for what they want to look for, and
Yeah.
so women can look for what they want to look for. If women want to look for swag, then women can look for swag, just like how men wants to look for beauty and shape and breasts, whatever it is that they're attracted to.
Hmm.
Women can look for swag. So I don't even think it's swag. I think it was just like you say. Well, I guess some confidence is the word
Yeah.
for swag.
Yeah.
Um, and then the lady had what's the name of the lady with the locks?
Oh, Ace. I love Ace.
That's her name. The one that Teddy
Vanessa
Bear
Rizzo?
liked. She had locks. She had locks, and Teddy Bear liked her, and he thought they were genuine. And she has
Ace.
a sense of humor,
Ace.
right?
I have her as Ace. Yeah.
Okay, she in her interaction with Fernando, like you could tell, like it's like when this is a situation where you can look at them and say, yeah, she don't like him because she was not engaging. Like
Right.
you could see he was trying to, in that situation, I thought she could have at least tried to have a conversation with him.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I felt
Yeah.
like she was intentionally not engaging him. And of
Right.
course, that's indicative of you're not attracted. But I feel like why be like, I'm not gonna, because clearly he was trying to have a conversation. it came off very interviewish. She was right. It did come off like he was interviewing someone for a job. Like, what do you do? Like, what do you,
But you
how
know
many
what?
kids?
I have done that before,
What's that? Like, not answer the
Okay.
guy?
Like, yeah, like what Ace did. I have been like, if I'm talking to a guy and it's just something, and I would just sort of zone out.
What would be the something though? She didn't zone out. She was looking right in his face. She didn't zone out. She
Yeah,
just
but we
wasn't
felt something
accommodating
through
him.
the screen. The energy, we felt her energy was off for some reason.
No, but I felt she could have engaged. I
Mm-hmm.
felt she knew what he was trying to do. Like he's trying to have a conversation with you. So if
Mm-hmm.
he asks you a question, then ask him back a question. I feel like in those instances, you treat people how you want to be treated. So if
Yes.
you're talking to someone and you like him, suppose she was talking to, I keep calling him Teddy Bear, but suppose she was
Listen.
talking to
Listen.
Clifton, and Clifton was giving her like that kind of mediocre energy. Like I just feel like you could not be attracted to them but still have a conversation.
Yeah,
That's what I felt.
that's
I
true.
feel like she's not the only one who's done it. Like we saw the one who got voted off,
Yes.
name.
Kina?
What's her name?
Kina?
Kina.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
saw her do it with Wiley. Wiley is another one that I like. I like
I'm on the
Wiley.
fence with Wiley. I'm not sure.
I like
I'm
his
not
energy.
sure.
He looks fun. He looks, even though he's young, he does look like he is looking for love. Like so far now,
Yeah.
I see him, with some little shenanigans in the trailer. But I go based on what they say. So
Okay.
with Paul, it was like, oh, you gotta look good, and I could put you on the table, and you could be dinner. I was like, okay, you interested in sex? That's your leading thing. But with
Mhm.
Wiley, he actually gave some good
Yeah.
points about what he was looking for, and when he would talk, even when he talked about Kina, he said, I like that she is like she speaks her mind,
Mm-hmm.
but this, and this. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like he when he gave his commentary, he was thoughtful about what he said.
Yeah.
And he seems like a good mix of playful and serious. Like that's how he came off to me, even though he's young, because he's young based on this group, usually ready
Yeah.
to love
Young
audience,
men.
30, mid
Yes.
30s,
Yeah.
40s, or whatever. He's like 32. I think he's probably one of the
Yes.
youngest that we
Yeah.
saw. But I like Wiley. But just how she was acting to him too. He was talking to her,
Mm-hmm.
and she was talking to him, but you could see it's like her energy was like, yeah, I'm not gonna date you.
Yeah.
It
You
gives
think that's
it
because
gives to me, it's
she's
just,
older than he is?
she said he's too young and she would never date him. She's robbing the cradle. Like, mom, he's 7 years younger than you and in his 30s. What are you talking about? What cradle are you? Like, you understand what I'm saying? Like, I thought she came as if she was the ish. That's how she came. Like, and
Yes.
I think, you walk in like, oh, I'm the ish, but still, her thinking she was the ish was more like she thought she had the cards.
Right.
Like, I have the card. Like, y'all here for my amusement and my entertainment. Let me see who I like. Oh, y'all two talking over there. Let me go interrupt you.
Right.
Don't let production set you up, because I could tell production center over there.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? Because I know production's famous for sending them to interrupt. And I'm always wondering, like, why, as if I'm the person sitting in the chair and you interrupt me, I'm going to say, give us a minute, please. We're talking. Like, I'm going to tell you, give me a minute. Like, when I'm done in 5 minutes, you can have him. You know what I mean? That's how
Yeah.
I would do it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times they sit down and they're like, oh, you can sit. Okay. Why did she come? And then they'll go in the convention and be like,
Yeah.
why did she come here? Da, 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 da. No, I can tell you right then and there. Excuse me, I'm talking. Just give me about 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Okay.
the women were so far very respectful so far on this episode, because you notice when they were coming to Laverne and Laverne's den, they were like, "Oh yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
can come sit here. I'll go. Okay. Oh, you can come here. You can come and sit here, and I'll go." They were
Mm-mm.
very,
Mm-mm.
you know,
Mm-mm. Because even that one who interrupted when they were speaking, and she was like, "Oh, what are you talking about, Michael Jackson?" Oh,
precious.
blah 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 blah. Yeah, Precious. Precious is a personality. She's a lot. I have to figure her out. Like, I
I'm
gotta
keeping my eye on Precious. I'm
I gotta
keeping
see
my eye
where
on
she going, because she's doing a lot. It was Precious, the one with the brown eyes that was talking to Tori?
Precious is the one in the red dress. Yes, she was
That does
talking
not.
to Tori. Yes, yes.
She was the one that had the mother issues
Yes, and see,
as
I didn't
well.
like that. I didn't like that. I started to like the conversation when they were talking about Romeo and Juliet, and took it, what can you learn from it? Have you had any experience like that? But when they started getting into the mother thing, and I don't know if it's
The
a
trauma, the
thing,
trauma.
but it's trauma bonding. Like, why you just meeting someone, you telling them all your stuff.
You want me to tell you why?
Yeah,
You want me to tell
why?
you why? A production.
Oh,
Production knew their backgrounds, and production said, you go over there. I want y'all
we'll
to
talk
talk.
about
I
that.
want you to tie in mother. Because she asked the question. When she asked the question, she was like, well, what did your mother teach you about that? I said, okay, that was her way. They probably told her to bring up the mother and then have a conversation. They didn't tell her what conversation to have, but they said
Right.
they know she has a mother issue. They know he has a mother issue. So they said, oh, y'all two may connect. You go over there and make sure bring up the mother issue. Because I could tell from the questions that they weren't necessarily organic. It was like kind of, oh, what is this drink? Oh, it's Romeo and Juliet. Oh, and then they started talking about love. And it was like how they went. It was like, okay, this is definitely
Okay.
a kind of production led thingum.
Oh,
I think they handled it well,
yes. Yeah.
being that it was their first thing, but I don't think that was like, I think that having the conversation brought a little bit of depth into at least they were trying. I think production was trying to bring some kind of depth into that particular episode by having this conversation. But like you said, it came off heavy. So a lot of people do feel like that's trauma bonding and we don't like it. I don't necessarily think they're gonna date. Like you looked at them and I was like, they don't have any chemistry. They look like they're gonna be friends and they gonna be like, hey girl, what's up? Hey Tori, what you saying? Like that's what they're gonna be. I don't see them. I couldn't see them. Even though he said the way he said it was, there's a lot to her and I gotta see what's there. He didn't speak about like necessarily having any attraction to her or connection to her. It was just, oh well, there's a lot more to it. I can see what's there. He's not. That's not. And that's on both their parts. She's not interested in him. He's not interested in her. I don't think. Yeah. Who else stood out to you? Which what to do?
Yeah, I have to turn off my alarm. My
Your
alarm
sound. Your sound again. Your sound is going. What'd you say?
Is it back now?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, no, I had to go turn off my alarm. My alarm started beeping for whatever reason. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Strange.
Okay. All
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Now, who else? Who else do you remember that we haven't talked about?
Dakia was the first woman that we met. I like her. I think her just from the first episode, her and Sabrina, they kind of have similar features. So it took me a while to learn their names and differentiate, but I don't know. There's something about her that's I don't know. I don't know. Something
That's
about
yellow dress.
she was in the yellow dress.
I'm
Yeah.
I'm looking at the video now. Okay.
Yeah.
I like the one, Tiffany. We have talked about Tiffany. Tiffany was one of what was in the bottom. She was one of them in the
Yeah,
bottom with
nothing about Tiffany stands out to me.
yeah, yeah. And that's probably why she was voted lowly in the men's, in the men's
Yeah.
conversation. Because I
Yeah.
was like, which one is Tiffany now? To be
Yeah.
honest, a few of them look very similar.
Oh, are you talking about
That's
Joy?
why
I just remember Joy.
I don't know which one is Joy. Joy, tell
Joy
me what
was
happened with
in
Joy.
green because Sabrina had on green, but Joy had on, was that a pantsuit?
Is Joy the one that Poe was interviewing about her divorce? Who was that
Maybe it
one?
was Joy. And I was saying Ace, maybe it's Joy.
I can tell you right now, I'm looking at no, that's Precious who was in the conversation.
Joy also has
Who
like
had on
or locks or something.
okay, that was the one that Poe was talking to all reckless and
Okay.
ran and got right on my nerve.
Okay.
Because I was like, what? He sound like he listened to Kevin Samuels. That's what I was looking at. Like
Oh.
he sound like he's a Kevin Samuels follower, and he was trying to like again. It's a conversation. I don't really. I'm not gonna date you. I'm not interested in you. So I really can piss you off. And I feel like the first mixer is really too soon for you to be trying to piss people off because you clearly were not trying to engage in the
Right.
conversation. You
Right.
clearly were trying to offend because how do you meet someone and decide that you're not
I'm gonna
even
say something
asking them?
that'll push your button, or I'm gonna say something I know will stick something in there.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I liked how she handled it. When somebody called her name in the bottom, I was like, Lord, I hope they don't vote her off because she does seem very level-headed.
Mm-hmm.
That's Ace. You were calling the wrong person Ace. That
Okay.
is Ace. Ace is the one that he was talking to. So
Okay.
who was the one we were calling Ace
Joy.
previously? That
Joy.
was Joy. That
Yeah.
was Joy. She was in green. Joy was in green, in bright green, in like a forest green. But yeah, I thought she handled it well. But I would have not stopped talking to him. That would have been a situation where I would have walked away and just said,
I
okay,
just
I will
left
see
him
you later.
there.
Bye. Yeah, because you're not trying to have a conversation with me. You don't know me well enough to make an assumption about why I got a divorce. And there a lot of times I find that men say that about divorce, like you didn't try. Like, how do you know? Maybe he divorced, or maybe you know what I mean. Maybe they
Yeah.
both mutually decided to end the
Right.
relationship. How do you just jump to the conclusion of
The woman
she
didn't
just gave
try
up?
everything. Yeah.
And then after he gaslit her, then he turns around and says in his confessional, I can't get anything out of her. What exactly do you want to get out of her? And see, because she was calm, she didn't come at him
Right.
like maybe Kima may have come at him and be
Yeah.
like, oh, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
She came at him, she was calm, and she just looked at him and whatever. And I was like, yeah, see, you ain't gonna get a rise out of her. You wanted to get an emotional rise out of her, then you could say, oh, she's too emotional. I don't like her.
Yeah.
That's how I feel he was going along. Is there anyone we didn't mention? Anyone?
Um,
And who did you say you think would make it to the end?
Sabrina was one. I'm
Okay.
on the fence with Dakia, Ace, and Joy.
About whether they'll make it to the end?
Yeah. Yeah. Because remember, we
I
still
don't.
haven't met everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I think Joy is going to make it to the end. I think she's going
okay.
to make it to the end because she and Clinton do seem to have a
Cliff.
connection.
Yeah.
And looking at the Clifton, sorry, and
Mm-hmm.
then looking at the
Yeah.
upcoming trailers, it seems like it gets further. I think Demetrius is going to make it to the end or close to it. When I say the end,
Okay.
I think also that Tori is his name. My pick, he's gonna make it to the end. But it's not, but from what I'm seeing in the previews, it's not one of these ladies. It's another lady that probably
I
comes in
am
the
not
middle.
sure about Tori, only because something he said, something went in his conversation with Precious when he
Hmm.
talked about how was that Tori or was that
That
Demetrius?
was Tori talking to Precious.
No, no. When somebody's talking about their mother didn't tell them that they love them, that was Tori.
That was Tori. That was
Right.
Tori.
And so she was like, "Oh, so you're closed off from your emotions." I'm like, "That's not something you want to say, because I don't know how that's
No,
going."
but there are like several clips of him in those previews kissing on
Okay.
some woman. They tried
Okay.
to hide it, but
Okay.
I was watching the previews and I was freezing at different points where I couldn't see because they were very clever with hiding like who's with who. But he
Okay.
has lost, so
Yeah.
it's difficult to hide him. And
Right.
it's a fair skinned young lady, a tall, fair skinned young lady that he's in the background with several
So
of the
maybe we
videos.
haven't met her yet.
We haven't met her yet. We haven't met her yet. Because I was like, who's this? And I was like, she's not someone we've met yet. It's a fair skin, similar complexion to Joy, but
Mhm.
straight hair that he's in the previews with. And like I said, I definitely see Joy and Clifton, and to meet now who Demetrius is with. I can't say, but
Yeah.
I definitely think
I don't.
he's gonna be to the end as well.
But yeah,
That would be.
I think Clifton is gonna be in for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I'm wondering about Laverne. I think Laverne may be in, and then
Laverne too.
I'm interested to see what that whole, unless it was editing, but I'm interested to see what that whole discussion was between Laverne and Demetrius in the next
Demetrius.
round.
I think it was heightened for the preview.
Okay.
My knowledge of editing, I'm like, yeah, they did this a good little. It's probably nothing. It's probably one
Yeah.
little back and forth because
Right.
the guys never ever get into it. So that was probably very clever editing of like a little disagreement, and they threw in a little Tommy look there, which Tommy's
Yeah.
look was probably from something else. Tommy's look possibly could have been from like the women's
The women,
segment.
right?
So I think it was nothing that they
Editing.
made to look like
Okay.
something
Okay.
that was very clever.
Yeah.
But I am excited a little
I'm
bit, just
excited
only
too.
so,
I like the guys that I see so far. Again, they seem very
yeah.
level-headed. They seem okay.
Except for Mr. Parole Officer, he
Yes.
could, I could,
Yeah.
like
Feel.
he could go.
Yeah.
I think this year, this season, I should say, I think Tommy them need to find new ways of like challenging or trope, like he like to say, oh, I got my what I forget what he calls them. I got my
Curveballs.
curveballs. Like, sir, you need new curveballs. We tired of
Well,
this
I mean,
old.
how much? Because if you think about it, right?
Hmm.
A lot of people may not mention it or think about it this way, but when you think about The Bachelor, The Bachelorette,
Hmm.
which
I
has
don't
been
watch those.
around year after year after year,
They do the
they
same thing every year.
they kind of do the same thing. It's just different players, different cast members. And then people go in and they kind of learn strategy. And that's where you get people say, I'm going to be the villain or, that sort of thing. So I'm wondering for Ready to Love, how many different types of curveballs can you throw in? I like the curveballs this season with going on blind dates because that does happen in the real world in dating. Sometimes
I
you
feel
get
like they were always going on blind dates because they didn't know these people.
no, they
So for
knew
me,
the
it was
people, they didn't know who they were going on a date with, but they had met everybody at the mixer. And so they
okay.
kind of had an idea
Okay.
of who people were, and they were invited on a date, but they just would never know who would show up until they got there. And they'd be like, oh, okay, I'm hanging out with you. But this
Okay.
time, they're going to go out and they don't know if it's somebody they met already or if it's somebody new.
Okay. Okay.
So
I
that's,
because I wondered when they said they only had 14 persons, I was like, because y'all were ready to shoot and y'all couldn't find the other six. So now that's what I
possibly,
feel. I feel
possibly.
like they were ready to shoot and they couldn't find the other six
Mm-hmm.
persons that they needed. And then they found those other people bit by bit, and then they started introducing them bit by bit. Or
Mm-hmm.
they're
Or
bringing in they're bringing in
with,
actors because they
with
do have a lot. They do have a lot of aspiring actors or people who act in little bit parts that come in on this show. Even though Sydney is not an actor, I feel like Sydney was,
was
I feel
brought
like
in.
Sydney was, I think she was brought in to stir it up. She and Phil ended up making a connection, and I'm watching to see because they're very guarded with that as far as their relationship. Because
Mm-hmm.
I honestly didn't think it was authentic. But in watching her interviews, like watching her interviews and seeing her interact with him behind the camera, because he's never on the camera, but you see them talk and stuff like that, I say, oh, okay, seems like they are connecting outside of the show. Because I just thought they were like KJ and the DA chick from
Amber.
the second season, Amber. KJ and like Amber was sent there for KJ because they couldn't have KJ come on a second season and not find anybody. And KJ again in that second season didn't have any other connections other than Amber.
Well,
Because
that's
KJ was
that's his MO, obviously.
that is well, no, his MO is he likes strong, powerful women who
Yeah.
make a lot of money and can pay bills. That's his MO. So I feel like she was sent to be like, okay, you are going to it was almost the same thing with Joel and Renisha. I felt like based on just hearing him talk in interviews and her talk in interviews,
Mm-hmm.
he was almost forced to date her. It was almost like he couldn't date something he said made me feel like he was not free to really venture away from her because they wanted at the end to be that couple. But that's why after the show ends
I never heard
and you
that.
yeah, did you watch a lot of the interviews after the show?
I've watched some of them. I watched
Hmm.
Vernisha's interview. I've never seen Joel's interview.
Hmm. I didn't watch his interview, but I heard other people say
Okay.
that him like they were never going to vote him off. He
Oh,
was never going to be voted off. That was alluded to. I don't know if I think Jason said I used to watch Jason and Liz a lot. And
okay.
Jason mentioned like him and Joel, like they were told that they weren't going to get voted off. Like they were kind of safe.
Right.
For Nisha, you noticed she was safe because
Joelle.
The week that Joel didn't choose her when he chose Kyra,
Ira, uh-huh.
she should have been in the bottom, not Liz. Because Liz actually had a little other options. Vernisha really didn't because her only person was Joelle,
Right.
because she was a person who didn't want any more children, and she was really the only one there who didn't want any more children. So she could only date for Joelle, but they did not put her in the bottom. They put Liz in the bottom, and I was like, well, how is Liz in the bottom when Renisha's only focus is Joelle?
Well, obviously that was to tug on our heartstrings and for us to say, no, no, don't let Liz go.
Ain't no tugging on no heartstrings at that point in the game. Renisha was supposed to be in the
That's
bottom.
probably why she was in the bottom. I don't know.
That's why I say they were trying to fix. I feel like they were trying to fix it that season to have couples in the end,
Mm-hmm.
because, and like I say, KJ, it would have looked really, not KJ, sorry, KG, Mr.
Yeah.
KG Smooth,
Yeah.
to come on again and then end up again in the same. And then if you watch when he came on again, like KG doesn't draw a lot of women. Like he draws, even in that first season, he drew the hairstylist.
Nah,
So
yeah.
once she lost interest, yeah, and as much as Joy was like, oh, that's my friend and he's nice, and da, 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 it's like Daya. And that was it. And then in the second season, it was Amber. No one else was really, and you
Yeah.
even saw Stacey and him on a date. And Stacey was like, oh, what's happening over there? There they
Yeah.
went painting or something. They went to do some craft thing, and they were doing it. And he
Yeah.
was trying to talk to
I
Stacey.
think
Stacey
for
was
a
like,
lot of the women, KG was probably giving off like the brotherly vibe or the friend vibe.
he's like Fernando. It's like, you're not, it's a I don't even want to say it's a swag thing, because he, as a face, he really has a model face. He has that swag of a model, but it's a lot. I hate to use the terms alpha and beta, because I don't necessarily, alpha isn't it. Like, it isn't like, oh, because you're an alpha, you're an
Right.
eligible person.
Right.
Betas can be eligible too, but there's a certain energy KG gives off
Yeah.
that isn't, as women who want to be protected, you
Right.
don't get that energy from him.
Right.
I think that's what it is. It's like, as a woman and you want to be protected, you're gonna go for the overconfident guy, or the guy with some kind of swag, because you just think that they look like they're protectors. Now,
Mhm.
why women were freaking out over Aaron in season one, I do not know, because I kept looking and I kept saying, what is it? It's not the conversation. It's not whatever. But I said,
It's the
whatever
same
acting, because
reason
he was
why
an
they
actor.
seem to be swooning over Demetrius this season.
But at
It's
least
something.
Demetrius has a calmness about him. He doesn't seem to, like, he doesn't seem like Aaron came there and he was performative. It was like, how do you grown women not see that this man is performing? Like, how do you really think he is clearly performing? Like, I could see that.
I
Even
remember,
before knowing he had acting in his
yes, I
background.
remembered watching Aaron, and he was always raising up his shirt and
Yes.
up his abs.
And I'm like, at 40, as a woman, like, you can't let that be swaying you like that.
Yeah,
That I was like, come on now, women. And that was so confusing to me.
yeah,
But yeah.
yeah.
So we're gonna see. I'm excited. I'm excited to see what's happening. I want to see, um, I want to see where it goes.
Yeah, I want to see if PO is going to meet anybody.
He's not.
If he's
He
going to
can
meet.
get voted off. He's gonna get voted off. Like, who do you think is gonna get voted off next? Because I don't know who, like, if who, what would be the female you say would get voted off next, and who would be the male contestant to get
I
voted off, or
think
participant?
based on who we have so far, Paul, PO.
Right.
Yeah,
But he is there at a deliberation.
right.
So he's not getting voted off next. He's in a deliberation, and I think he's in some. I think I saw him in a scene with with a woman. Let me stop saying female, because that could be offensive.
Yeah.
I don't
So
think
maybe
he's
a
next.
woman gets voted off next. I don't know.
So who would be? But who would be the woman?
Tiffany.
Yeah. She's
Tiffany.
gonna go. Tiffany's gonna go. That's true. I
Tiffany.
still. Who are the other men? So who? Which we have? It was 14 of them. Now there's 6. Who are the 6 men we have now? Call their names. We have
Paul,
Paul.
Wiley,
Mm-hmm.
Demetrius,
Mm-hmm.
Tori, Laverne,
Mm-hmm.
and Clifton.
Okay. 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 From those guys, Okay, and so you would say Paul would be next. So
Yeah,
Paul would be the next guy to go from the guys we have,
yeah.
and then Tiffany would be the next girl.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. We'll see. We'll see if our predictions are correct. I can
Yeah,
agree. I agree with those based on who we have now.
yeah.
I can agree.
Okay, sounds good.
All
Sounds
right.
good. I
This
like
was
it.
fun.
Huh?
This was fun. I know
Yeah,
I said this was fun. Had a
this
good
was
time.
fun. Lots of fun. And of course, if you guys have questions or comments, you can reach out to us and we'll answer them if we can. But again,
Mhm.
we given our opinion and based on what we see. So maybe you noticed something that we missed. So you
Hmm.
can,
And if you're and I guess at this point is if you're not watching it, it's Ready to Love. We're talking about Ready to Love on OWN. This is the sixth season, but they're calling it the fifth season. But this is the sixth cycle. Let me say cycle like America's Next Top Model. This is the sixth
yes,
cycle of the show where you have a set of men and a set of women who date each other. And in the end, three couples are chosen. What before we go, what do you think about them voting people off? A lot of people feel like they shouldn't, like all of like for the most part, all of the couples should kind of stay to a certain point and then people start to form. And I think that makes sense. Like to vote
I
people off when
yeah,
people are
I
still
think
trying to figure out what they want.
they were trying to put a game element in it somehow.
Hmm.
And I think that was the only thing they could come up with rather than just a show about couples like say married at first sight or family or fiance type of thing. Um,
Right.
I think they wanted to put some sort of game element in it. The
Hmm.
unfortunate thing is that some people really take that game element and get serious about the game element as
And
a
they playing it as a game,
right.
as we've been hearing with this last season. Like they were really playing it as a game. And I think no, I wouldn't even say just this last season. I've heard stuff of other seasons too, where
Yeah, but it was
they
obvious. It was
this
very
last season.
obvious in the
It
play.
wasn't obvious to me till I heard the interviews about who you putting in the bottom and who you putting in the bottom and all that different stuff. Um, it wasn't obvious until I heard those conversations. But for me, I just feel like it's just awkward because like if someone is interested in pursuing someone, so let's take for example one of the few, because there are only two Ready to Love couples that we have so far, and both were formed after the show. Both of those situations would have benefited from the person being allowed to stay if there was no
Right.
voting off. Because
Mario
remember,
and
Reva
Reba.
left. Right, Reva left the show because Mario was her only person.
Right.
That was the only person she was interested in, and so she was like, "Well, either if if you're in a situation where people getting voted off, I might as well just leave because if you're pursuing at the time he was pursuing Tondi, even
Mhm.
though he was interested in her. So a lot of the flack he got after the show, even though some of it is attributed to the way he told Tondi,
Right.
a lot of it had to do with, if he wanted to, he should have left with Reva. Well, it's too soon for him to know if he wanted to because
Right.
he's still trying to figure out who does he like because he liked them both.
Mhm.
So who does he like? And because you're voting people off, it's like, okay, well, I'm forced to choose you now. You see what I'm saying? It's the same thing with Simone and Rashid.
Mhm.
Simone clearly liked Rashid. Rashid, however, was also interested in
Adriana.
Adriano, even though it was clear that Adriano really wasn't 100% into him. But Rashid actually had several connections. He had Adriana, and I think he had someone named Alex. He was also taking out on dates. Rashid had a lot of connections. So with him, as people get voted off, it's like, okay, well, now they're voted off. I have to be with this person.
Right.
And
Right.
so I can't really explore anything with this other person. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I feel like they would have benefited. But, again, if you form a connection on the show and I guess you want to pursue that connection, you can always call them after the show.
Mhm.
So people are free to do that because we did have an engagement at one point from a couple, the second cycle of Atlanta, the
Um,
nurse, the
yes.
nurse
What's her name
with
again?
Michael. Her name was I can't remember. I just know as
Yeah.
the nurse, and they call her Tiny. I
Yes.
follow on Instagram, so I know it's
Yes.
Nurse, and she's
Okay.
Tiny. And she was with the young man Michael, who got voted off very early, and they pursued each other afterwards. You know what I mean? So they can still do that.
Mhm.
But I think the show would have a greater success rate if they were to keep people on and vote them off. Like, let's say maybe start voting them off by week 3 or week 4. And
Right.
then the
Not
first couple
too
weeks
soon.
is just dates and them doing creative dates, like showing different ways how to date. Like, I think that the show is a dating show, so you should see, like, I think one of the creative dates we saw was Rashid and Simone. Like, that was a creative
Yes,
date.
on the
Like,
back of the
the
truck.
scene on the back of the truck where you show people like how to date or what are
Yeah.
some ways that we can date.
Right. I also
I,
liked when Jason took Liz to the carnival or the Ferris wheel
I
or
was
the
going to say that, but
yeah.
actually Liz took Jason because that was the week the women were supposed to take the man out.
Oh, okay.
Remember, she bought the picnic basket. It was her
Okay.
date.
Okay.
But I like that one too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
that was
like that
another
one
one.
too. Yeah. But it
Um,
is a
the
dating
rest,
show. And so I guess they're trying to show what men and women do right or wrong in dating. And I guess the first episode is like, okay, if you go to an event, a mix and mingle
mm-hmm,
event, and this is your one chance to make an impression,
mm-hmm.
how do you handle that at the risk of, letting it go away or getting voted off, however they term it. So I
I
think,
guess.
yeah, that's probably what they're thinking of when they,
I think a lot of good people have been voted off in that first episode, though.
yes,
I
yes.
think that's why I say that because even the guy who was the mailman in the I know them by profession. He was a short
Christian,
guy.
Christian.
Yes, beautiful skin. He was a model and he was
Mhm.
also a postman. And I thought he was a genuine person, but he didn't have quote unquote swag. He
Yeah.
was a lot more bashful or whatever. And then he got voted off. Now the one that did get voted off that I thought was like, yeah, you need to go was the one who was rapping about his genitalia in this last one. He was rapping to Aisha. You remember him?
Did he have like a little bit of a
His
scruffy
name was
hair?
Lamont. Yeah. No, he
Yes,
had a beard and a bald head. His name
yes,
was Lamont.
yes.
Nah, he needed to, yeah, let's okay, bye, sweetie. Bye. Because that's not a good first impression.
Right.
That is not a good first impression at all. We do not need, like, of all the poems or raps that you have written, this could not be your best material. If it was, you should kept that to yourself,
Yes.
sweetie. That's not it. That ain't it.
Yeah.
But I do think the show follows how we date. I do think women get over attached, men are laid back, men are chill. Um, a lot of times they're not as serious as the women. Like the women are like serious, like we're looking for something. And a lot of times you find that even those who can neck on the show after the show, the man hasn't called or he hasn't done or he's done something and they've broken up. Like
Right.
I do think it's very true to form to, you know, to kind of how why it's so difficult to
Yeah.
to date as a especially in this time that we're in now.
Yeah.
But fingers, but I say a lot, but I say with this last season for all of the shenanigans, it's the season that ended with the most couples. They ended with 4 couples at the reunion.
Yes.
No other season and that are actually because Aisha and Dante are still chilling. Sydney and Phil seem to still be chilling. We definitely know Cornelius and
You know.
Camille are have something that's going on there now. Zadia, people are on the fence about whether Zadia and Naeem are a thing or whatever not, but they seem to be possibly a relationship. So it's the first time we've had 4 couples. Now we'll see what happens in the next 6 months if they're still together. But they've been technically the most successful
Yeah.
and the one with the most drama. So
Yeah.
what does that say?
Yeah. What does that say? I don't
Message
know.
there.
I don't know
Message
what
there.
that's saying. Yeah.
The message is there. So we'll see what happens this season.
Yeah. We
But
we will.
thank you for joining us. For those
Yeah.
who have joined us, join in the conversation next week. Where we will have there'll be the second episode. So we'll be back next week
Yeah.
with Moya and
Yeah.
Indira.
Yeah. Bye.
And, and by next week we'll have a name for you because we don't have a
Yes.
name for what we're doing right now.
Yes.
So you can actually suggest some names for us for what
That
we should call
works.
it.
That
That
works.
would be great. We'd appreciate that. All right. Bye.
Bye, guys.